Minecraft recently revealed the new Pale Gardens biome, which I actually think looks great. It brings a new wood type which will be amazing to build with in the future, as well as a new mob called the Creaking, which is just as scary as it sounds. If you don't already know, these mobs are impossible to kill with a weapon, and the only way to remove them is by breaking the Creaking heart that spawns in the biome, inside of a randomly selected tree. This is cool, but it feels like a missed opportunity to instead have it spawn in a structure that spawns in the biome. That way, there'd be a much more fun quest to track it down and destroy it, rather than just looking through the forest at trees until you get to the right one. There could be one structure that always spawns, or multiple different ones which it randomly picks from, to make the experience much more unique every time. And so today, I'm going to be showing you 5 structure ideas that I've come up with, which I think would work perfectly in this biome. Seeing as this is just an early snapshot, there's a chance Mojang actually decide to add a structure before releasing the final version. So please do share this video and leave a like if you enjoy any of these ideas. Anyway, let's begin with the first structure. The first idea I came up with is probably the most basic, but is also the most requested structure I've seen people speaking about for the biome. It's a small mausoleum. This is basically just a small burial site that's located in the middle of the forest, with the main mausoleum being located at the back, with a couple of graves in front of it. The best thing about these graves is that you're able to actually loot them, as there are double chests located under each of them. Some just include bones, while others have some basic gear to help you if you choose to enter the crypt. You can enter the crypt by going into the mausoleum, and then following the staircase down to the bottom. Here you'll find a big maze, which is covered in mobs to fight to help keep it interesting to explore. In the centre of the maze, you'll find the Creaking heart, which you should probably destroy. As well as this, there are some barrels filled with loot around the maze too, so that there's always more to explore and find while you're down there. My favourite thing about this structure though, is definitely how it looks at nighttime, as when there are creeks walking around, it looks like something out of a horror film. Out of all of the builds that I made, I think this is the most Minecrafty structure, and is the most likely to be added to the game, or at least something similar to this. The next structure has the most backstory behind it, and is an abandoned castle. The story goes that a very wealthy Minecraft player owned this castle in the middle of the forest, but randomly out of nowhere, the creeks began attacking. The owner of the castle found the tree with the Creak heart inside, and to try and stop the creeks, the tree was chained up in the basement of the castle, behind a hidden away door in the fireplace. As with all of these structures, I kept the design very simplistic to match other naturally spawning structures in the game. I also used a very grey colour scheme to make it look extra spooky, and to help it blend in with the biome. The interior has a couple of rooms to explore, like a main dining room, a bedroom, a lounge, and of course the library, which includes a hidden away door in the fireplace. You might be wondering how to open the door though. Well, if you loot the bookshelves, you'll find a lot of enchanted books, but if you're lucky you'll also find a written book which contains the location of the lever which is used to open the door. This would change from multiple possible locations to keep it unique each time, but for this castle, the lever is hidden behind the painting in the lounge. Pulling the lever will reveal this ladder behind the fireplace. You can follow the ladder down to enter the basement of the castle, which is infested with creeks that you'll need to avoid. It's a very dangerous room to go through, but on the other side of the room you'll find a chamber that contains the chained up tree inside. I really like how this structure came together, and I can really imagine it spawning in a Minecraft world. It's also short enough that when you're in the middle of the forest you won't be able to see it until you're right next to it, to not give its location away. There are a couple of markers that will also spawn in the world near the castle though, to mark that it's nearby, like a drained fountain and an abandoned market stall. If you find these, then you know that you're going in the right direction to find the castle. The next structure that I came up with is very different to the others, as it doesn't actually contain a Creaking heart. This structure is called a garden sanctuary. Seeing as the biome is called a pale garden, despite it not containing many new plants, I wanted to design a structure that includes lots of bright plants that stand out in the middle of the very grey forest. It also has a very cool and unique function, which is that Creakings are unable to enter it. The walls around the edge of it mark a barrier which the Creakings can't get past, and so if you're running from some Creakings and find one of these structures, it could save your life, or at least give you time to catch your breath. It also works as a great place to build your house without having to worry about the mobs entering. I'm not too sure on the lore of why the Creakings can't enter this garden. If you have any ideas of why that could be, or any lore ideas for any of these structures, I'd love to hear them in the comments. But yeah, this is a very small structure with a very basic design, but I love the unique functionality that it would provide. Just like the Mausoleum structure, I also saw a lot of people suggesting that Minecraft add a haunted house structure in the biome. And so I built this really stereotypical haunted house that looks like it's taken straight out of a horror film. The colour scheme of the pale oak wood works perfectly for a build like this, and while I was tempted to make a more unique design for the house, I think the classic haunted house look would work perfectly in a biome like this. I even added a pumpkin on the front porch as a reference to the film Halloween, as the house in the film has a very similar front porch design. All around the house you can find graves, which just like the first structure that I showed you, all contain loot that you can dig up and steal. As you'd expect, the house has full interior, starting with this surprise that's hiding behind the front door to scare anyone who enters. I used loads of pale moss carpets along the walls, as the roots grow upwards on the walls to look like mould, which adds a lot of character to the house. The rooms inside are pretty basic, but I did make sure to include a small room that has a stone cutter, as I've always found the spinning blade on them to look pretty creepy. Now, you might be wondering where the Creaking Heart is located. Well, in the main room upstairs, you can parkour up the wall decorations to make your way up to a hanging ladder, which leads you to the attic. In the attic, you'll find the Creaking Heart chained up in the center of the room, like it powers the entire house. I absolutely love the way that the house looks at nighttime when it's surrounded by the Creakings, and I think it would be so cool to just come across one of these buildings in the middle of a forest. It's nowhere as big as one of the giant mansions that you can find in a dark oak forest, but I think it has a lot more charm to it. Last but definitely not least is this unique structure named the Root Cavern. This is essentially a large tree stump which spawns in the world, with giant roots that wrap around the terrain. It looks a lot like Shrek's house, which wasn't on purpose. It's very overgrown and natural, and blends in really nicely with the rest of the forest. The coolest part of this structure though is what's on the inside, and inside of the trunk is a huge vertical drop that leads down to a small cave, where you can either slowly make your way down using scaffolding, or try to land in the water like a dropper map, which is a lot of fun to do. As you'd expect, the cave is filled with loads of mobs, as well as a couple of creaking mob spawners, which you should probably light up the second that you get in. In the center of the cave is a pale oak tree, which contains the Creaking Heart in the center. The cave also contains a bunch of ores all along the walls, regardless of the height level that it spawns at. It will contain diamonds, emeralds, and every other ore type, making it really valuable to enter even if you don't want to bother breaking the Creaking Heart. The only real downside to this structure is that there's no way to exit, and so you'll need to bring extra blocks with you to build back up once you're done, or you'll have to make a pickaxe using the wood from the tree so that you can mine your way back up. But yeah, those are 5 ideas that I came up with. I have other cool structure ideas that I had to leave out, so make sure to let me know if you'd like to see a part 2. If you have any ideas for future structures, do make sure to share them in the comments, and also let me know which one of these was your favourite. Thank you for watching, goodbye.